Hi everyone, my name is Candidiasis. I just wanted to pop up here today. I'm currently at my home in my kitchen, and I was prepping today for my cooking classes that's happening tonight. I choose to do my little presentation, my little speech here prior to the class because I will most likely be teaching in French tonight. So it just makes it easier if I get to do my intro and my little nutritional speech beforehand. So first of all, I just wanted to introduce myself, kind of what I do, who I am, my background. So again, my name is Shannon Berivo, currently living in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, and yeah, so I'm currently a student this week at the Academy of Culinary Nutrition. So as the Culinary Nutrition Expert Program, that's what I'm taking, with hence the purpose of this class. I also have a background in holistic nutrition, as well as I have a background as I worked throughout the years in health food stores, organic farms. So as you'll see as I do my intro, I normally like to talk a little bit about the farm to table component. I find is really important. I really like to incorporate that. But anyway, so for tonight's class, I'll be teaching my students all about candidiasis, so basically what it is, in what forms it can show up, symptoms, and it will kind of touch around with the recipes we'll be making tonight. So we have like a holiday inspired theme because it is quite close to Christmas, but with using all, I guess, CNE approved and with my teamed approved ingredients. So we'll be using lots of onions, garlic, turmeric. We'll be using some coconut oil, some fresh nuts and seed, which all helps with my condition of choice, which is candidiasis. So that's the theme for tonight's class. A little bit of about what candidiasis is, or candida, the short term is. So candida is really like an overgrowth of yeast within the body. Everyone has naturally occurring yeast in them, something that's just natural. But candidiasis occurs when that natural occurring yeast starts to it becomes like an overgrowth. So there's just too much, and normally that can be aggravated by a diet that's rich in sugars, refined sugars, carbohydrates, processed foods, or even just lots of stress. That stuff that can all affect candidiasis. But anyway, candidiasis can show up normally. Well, the most common forms would be it could show up on the skin, as patches like rash or stuff like that. So it can show up on the skin. You could have like oral thrush. I think it's a word. So basically, in the mouth, normally on the tongue, you would have like a yellow kind of coating, or in the mouth, that's normally overgrowth of yeast, candidiasis. We have in the gut, which is basically, well, actually, it all kind of goes down back to the gut, and then usually it will show up on the skin and other parts afterwards. But in the gut, so the gastrointestinal tracts, you can have an overgrowth there, as well as the vagina or the penis for men and women. Normally for women, it would be through UTIs as we commonly know it. So that's a form of candidiasis. Other symptoms that can be related to candidiasis, and that's normally found with, I guess, with not with the illness, but with the type of condition. So basically, you'll normally have, or you can be prone to having bloating, gas, constipation. Strong cravings for sugars, bread, and alcohol is also really common for people with candidiasis, or just like simple, like really like strong sugar cravings, not feeling like you have control over like your sugar cravings. So that's often associated with candidiasis as well. And obviously with each specific condition, such as oral thrush, UTIs, and all that, they all have their own specific symptoms for them, such as like the urge to urinate for UTIs, but not being able to urinate and just a burning sensation. So that's normally again associated with the UTIs. That comes back down to candidiasis. So that's a little bit about what candida is. I know I already did mention it a little bit, but things that's really important to avoid and things that can be really beneficial to eat when you know that you have candidiasis or if you've been diagnosed with candidiasis. Either whichever form those are applied to any type of symptoms basically. So the things to avoid that's really important. Normally you would like to keep your diet on like a low carbohydrate, low sugar diet, just because what happens is that candida being yeast, you want to make sure that you reduce yeast prone foods or foods that may contain mold, such as peanut butter, peanuts, stuff like that, pistachios as well. So that's all stuff we would like to avoid, as it may increase the chance of having more candida to grow. There's also, so yeah, the mold prone foods. We have stuff, so obviously there's the importance of eliminating like refined sugar foods, processed foods, because that affects candidiasis a lot, as our body can't process it as good as it would be for whole foods. So, and also that's another thing where sometimes we may think, because oh well, pineapples are really good for me, or like fruits are really good for me, but candidiasis, what it does is that once you get if let's say you were too big to eat, like let's say like a big chunk of pineapple or something, well, pineapple is good for you, right? It has a really good digestive enzymes even in there, bromelain, that's really good for inflammation as well. But with candida, since pineapple is also quite high in sugar, what it does is that yes, you still get some benefits, but when you eat it and you're starting to digest, it goes and it transforms into its most simple sugars. So basically, your body will process it as sugar in whichever form it may be. It could be the same for, grains or bread, pasta, all those kind of thing, where your body, normally it could be good for us, but for some people that are prone to having candidiasis, then once it's being transformed and processed, it will still be absorbed within the body as more simple sugar. So that's why it's really important for to better heal and to better treat candidiasis. We want a diet that's quite low in carbohydrates and sugar. So normally that would include like low sugar berries. There's quite limited fruits, although you can do avocados that are also really good and healthy fats. You can do most vegetables that are also quite good. Um, for the purpose of candidiasis, normally beans and legumes needs to be limited. It doesn't have to be stopped completely necessarily, but it is best since it is quite high in starches and quite high in carbohydrates. Your body again will process it as being quite high in sugar and hence feeding or possibly feeding candidiasis. So that's another of the things. So it would be best if it was like, incorporating more lean, organic, grass-fed or pasture-raised poultry and meats into the diet. Eggs are also really good. Going on like a full, candidiasis diet while being vegan or vegetarian might be not necessarily might be a little bit harder, but you just have to be a little bit more conscious, especially since a vegan diet might be more prone to having a lot of beans and legumes in them, so you just want to be mindful and maybe use other substitutes. Soy could be a good one if it's not something that the person is intolerant to. Talking of intolerances, that's another thing that's quite important with going on a candidiasis diet, is that And normally we would ask for the person to cut out dairy and gluten. It doesn't have to be forever, but just for the healing part, which can take up to like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, a few months. Um, Normally you can cut out gluten and dairy for let's say approximately 4 to 6 weeks, and then start reincorporating it after 4 to 6 weeks, and start slowly. So if let's say you were someone that was used to eating lots of cheese or a lot of dairy, which again, if some people are intolerant but may not know, that also might feed the candidiasis and the yeast overgrowth, because all that inflammation, all that damage that it's creating to the gut can lead to candidiasis and just like an impaired gut, which it kind of all relates. Um, so yeah, so gluten and dairy to be cut out for 4 to 6 weeks at minimum, and then if ever you do feel the need to go back, then you can start incorporating slowly and see if you see any symptoms. That's what's really interesting too with the elimination diet, is that you'll see that by cutting those out and then reincorporating them, like while you gave your body kind of the rest that it needed to heal, once you incorporate those foods again, you'll see if it was really a trigger or not, because the symptoms will appear much more stronger. So again, I'll repeat. So low mold foods, or a diet that's low in sugar and carbohydrates, so preferably with lean, organic, pasture raised or grass fed meats. And then you can do dairies. Lots of healthy fats is really really good to help kind of heal the body and help treat candidiasis. Something that's especially really good for candidiasis is coconut oil. Coconut oil has a lot of antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral properties. So either it be used topically. I find that for anyone with any type of candidiasis or rash on the skin that would be related to candida, can really benefit if let's say you add some coconut oil to the rash. So it really helps heal. Apple cider vinegar is really good even to use on the skin to help deal with rashes, or even they call it ringworm. It's not actually a worm, but it is usually like a circular patch on the skin that is basically related with candidiasis. So coconut oil, apple cider vinegar is really good to treat for the skin. You would also have, you could also do like in your diet specifically. Well, I mean, you can do apple cider vinegar and coconut oil in your diet, but it can also be used topically for that reason. Onion, garlic, turmeric is one of the most potent foods probably out there, and it's especially good for candidiasis. The reason is because onion, garlic, and turmeric all have anti-inflammatory properties, which really helps target the candidiasis, because the overgrowth of yeast creates inflammation in itself, but oftentimes the candidiasis started because there was some sort of inflammation within the gut. So basically you're targeting it both ways. Also has antifungal, antiviral, and antimicrobial properties as well. You also have some nuts and seeds, such as pumpkin seed, that's really really good to help target candidiasis. And then you have some salmon, that's also really good if you're not on a vegan diet, that has some really rich omega-3 that will also help target the inflammation from candidiasis. And what else? So the berries, the lean meats, the good fats such as avocado, really really good. Any types of leafy greens that really will help detoxify the body. So so leafy greens will help detoxify the body, such as kale. Any leafy green that's really rich and it's really like a dark green, that just means it's more rich in chlorophyll, which chlorophyll basically is it's found in most plants, but the richer the color, the richer it is in chlorophyll, and chlorophyll really helps to detoxify the body. Also has antiviral and antifungal properties, so it's really good to help release all those toxins that candida might be creating as it grows. So I think that's pretty much it for my little speech about candidiasis. I'm well over 15 minutes at the moment. But yeah, I hope that really helped. Just a little bit about what candida is. And again, the recipes I will be making tonight are all in relation. All the recipes are gluten-free, dairy-free, of course, and soy-free as well, actually. And they all have secret component that will help in one way or the other with the overgrowth of candidiasis. So I'm super excited for tonight's class, and yeah, I can't wait for you guys to see this video and see how I did. Perfect. Thank you. Have a good day.